So this is the mother and foal bonding technique tutorial showing this little process step by step. Mother foal bonding is this whole choreography that we have to learn with our horses, and I know that its main fault is that there's a lot of different steps involved. But instead of thinking of it as something that overwhelms you, I just want you to think of it as a process to learn, like a checklist where there's various different choices you go through with your horse. This is the updated step-by-step tutorial. I'm very lucky to have worked with a fantastic illustrator to prepare some better graphics that show more clearly what this process is. If you're watching this on the Emotional Horsemanship online course on Udemy, I will have left the original and vintage version of this tutorial on the online course so that you can see both. You can see the progression as a business, and you can see the clarification of the technique through time. So I've left both of them on the course. So as I said, this is the updated step-by-step tutorial. The improved illustrations are by a wonderful artist who's also one of my private coaching and hoof care clients, Roseanne Grosjean. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And here is her Instagram, her Twitter, and her website if you're interested in getting in touch with her. Mother-foal bonding creates the emotional phenomena of care, or the bond. Care is the Panksepian or the affective neuroscience term for what we typically call the bond between a horse and a horse person, or the relationship. Mother and foal bonding taps into intrinsic body language phenomena, meaning that all horses that were born of their mother and were able to socialize with their mother in any space for the first couple of hours of their lives, every single horse that ticks that box will understand this body language phenomena, meaning that the horse is not learning behaviors that they don't already know. They are remembering behavior. These behaviors are already connected to the emotional phenomena of care because it is how their mother first described care to them, was with these body language phenomena. And as I said earlier, this is a whole choreography where you and your horse have a few choices to make at each stage, and there's various different options based upon the choices the horse make. But let's be honest, all horse training can be complex. All horse training involves us as horse people learning a whole series of movements, actions, behaviors, and choices. So this is no different than any other training technique in its structure, meaning there's a whole lot that you need to learn and embody, but it is totally unique to emotional horsemanship. There is no other horse training method that is teaching a technique just like this. The end result is that it will create for you a soft, trusting, connected, and I will also add calm horse. Step 1, do nothing. No touch or engagement, and you wait for the horse to lose interest. You come into your training space, the horse has a halter on, usually if you're working intact, and you do nothing. You come into the arena, you stand next to the horse, and you just do nothing. Don't touch them, don't engage with them, don't fuss with them, just do nothing. Don't engage with the horse. Wait for the horse to show you how long they're willing to stay with you in the absence of behavior before they lose concentration or interest. So here, part of this illustration shows that the horse has lost interest by looking away. So the horse may walk away, the horse may look away. It depends on the horse as an individual. This is important because why train a horse if the horse is not interested in your passive, quiet company? How can we expect to teach them actions if they have no interest or value in your passive, quiet company? And this step 1 asks a very simple question of the horse, and that question is, how interested are you, horse, in my, as a person, passive, quiet company when I have nothing to give, nothing to ask, and nothing to offer except myself and my presence? That's a very simple question it asks the horse. Step 2, the horse has lost their interest, regardless of what that looks like. They've lost their interest. So what do? You leave them alone. You walk in a straight line directly opposite from where the horse's attention was directed. This is important because we never want to force our cooperation on a horse who has already lost interest and focus in us. And if the horse is not concentrated or doesn't have a value in you just standing next to them, or if they don't even know that you're standing next to them, and some horses don't, you can stand right next to them and they'll look completely through you, like they don't see you. So how can we expect to have communication and training with this animal that doesn't have any value in us whatsoever? And we teach the horse that we acknowledge their small distractions, and when the horse does get distracted, that we leave them alone with their thoughts. That if the horse is having thoughts that are outside of the training, that's absolutely fine. They're allowed to, and we're not going to try and fix that. And we will just leave them alone with their thoughts. If they're not concentrated, then they're not interested in your cooperation. And if they're not interested in your cooperation, we, as the person, reserve the right to remove ourselves from the situation. Of course, we're hoping the horse might be curious. It's almost like reverse psychology. It's like, oh, you don't want to talk? Okay, then I'll be quiet. And then immediately they want you to talk to them. And we passively teach that cooperation and communication requires that the horse cares enough to focus on us when we are close to them in space. Step 2B. You wait for the horse's focus to return to you. Sometimes this will happen immediately after you leave them. You leave them in a straight line and immediately their feet start moving and immediately they start following you. And sometimes it can take several minutes and it can take everything in between. This is another instance of behavioral variability, that the horse has the freedom to express this moment in a whole host of different behaviors, meaning following immediately or taking their time. It will look different here, horse to horse. So emotional horsemanship, mother-foal bonding from the very beginning builds in consent and builds in the ability to allow the horse to express themselves in a unique way, depending upon them as an individual. If it does take a while for the horse to return their focus on you, meaning they look at you and then start to follow you, and you get to the end of your rope, maintain walking in steady curves at the end of your rope. And when you get to the end of your rope, you may close your hand on the rope, but do not pull on it unless in very specific circumstances. There are very, very specific circumstances in mother-foal bonding where you would actually step in and direct the horse to follow you through a pressure, if you are using a rope, that is. But generally speaking, do not pull on the rope. And as you're curving in space, change direction by passing the rope behind your back like this, because you always want that the rope is on the inside hand of the curve that you are walking on. This is very important because we show the horse that we will walk in curves just like a horse does, to demonstrate to the horse our willingness to communicate in a spatial movement language that the horse understands. Horses speak through space with curves, not with straight lines. We will wait as long as the horse needs to regain their focus. And that is very important to horses, that they discover that you will just remove yourself from the situation, but not so far that the horse is totally alone and it constitutes a punishment. You just remove yourself from their personal space, allow them to have their own individual thoughts that are different from you, and you will just wait, moving through space like a horse in a curve until they're focused on you again. Step 3, the horse has recovered their focus. Their attention has returned. The horse will begin to follow, and this is another instance of behavioral variability. There's different ways the horse will follow depending upon the space you're using and depending upon their emotional expression. Horses who have already triggered the emotional phenomena of care, or caring horses, will already begin to curve their body from tail to nose in the direction that you walk. So we're walking in a curve indicated here by the dark green arrow. The horse should be curving with their body in the same sort of curve. This horse in this drawing is not. So this drawing represents a horse who doesn't care yet. It will feel soft, quiet, and caring to you when the horse is curving their body, mimicking your curve. Horses who don't care yet will walk straight at you toward your closest cut-off point. Their spine will be straight from ears to tail, and this will feel and appear to be pushy and invasive to you. Step 4. The horse is now following you. When the horse gets close to you, your curve becomes tighter. The closer they get to you, the tighter your curve in space becomes. The further the horse is away from you, the wider your curve in space becomes. So you're thinking of this like a spiral. As the horse gets closer to you, your curve becomes a spiral. Step 5. This is representing a pushy cutoff, an uncaring cutoff. An uncaring and pushy horse who has not yet accessed the deep body memory that mother foal bonding triggers will cut you off without curving their body in your curve. Their spine will be straight when they do so. Their shoulder will push into your personal space. This is not the desired outcome, but a normal part of a horse discovering how to forge a bond based in care with a person. Step 6. This is how to respond to a pushy horse in mother foal bonding. If the horse is pushy at any moment, you pivot, meaning you turn on the spot, turn and move the other way. You remove yourself from that pushy conversation. You leave the horse again in a straight line, like step 2. The horse has used a straight or stiff spine against you, pushing into your personal space. So your straight line in space as a departure from them is your mirror back to the horse that pushiness equals you are alone with that. Meaning that if the horse is going to be pushy with their body and their movements around you, that you will simply remove yourself from them entirely. You won't try to fix it and you won't fight with them. You will just remove yourself from the situation. The horse will then eventually curve their body when they emotionally soften and begin to care. When the care and nurturance system is triggered, what will happen is their body will start to soften, and this will result in a curve through their spine, which this graphic here perfectly depicts. As soon as the horse starts to curve, you start to curve in space as well. Step 7. The horse is now in a full body curve on the inside of your curve. The horse is probably close to you, following you, getting closer all the time. The curve is spiraling into a mutual meeting point just in front of you. Step 8. The cutoff. This is the cutoff in care. The horse found the herd center, in this case a herd of 2. The horse has deferred to your personal space by yielding their inside foreleg away from you in one sideways step. This will feel very concrete, very solid to you. Once you have felt this behavioral phenomena and emotional phenomena, you will feel and notice it forever in all aspects of your horsemanship. This is a universal truth in all horses, this careful cut-off phenomena, this yielding away from you. A yield that you didn't have to push into them, just the fact that the horse noticed where you were moving in space, they fall into the inside of your curve, and they have asked you to stop. This is how foals communicate to their mum, "Mum, will you just stand still and be with me and stop moving?" Step 9. You have now established the inside and the outside and the curve that you and the horse have been working within. You are on the outside, the horse is on the inside. You wait for the horse to touch you. This is important because not enough horses are given the opportunity to initiate touch in their training, but are usually touched without their consent or touched interrupting their internal thought processes and emotional processing. Sometimes horses are thinking about things or processing certain feelings, and when you touch them, you interrupt that process. So you wait for the horse to be the first to touch you. And yes, if they only touch you with their whiskers, this is enough. And some incredibly sensitive horses won't actually touch you physically, but their personal space bubble, which can be hovering above their actual body and above their skin, will reach in and touch you. Step 9. The horse has touched you, and the horse's touch is your permission to begin touch mapping their whole body. And we're going to map their whole body. This is very similar to some body work techniques or mechanoreceptor work. But you are going to map the horse's whole body, and this is preparing them for riding. You stand toes, hips, and shoulders facing forward, because when you ride, this is the same body relationship that you will have. Your toes, hips, and shoulders will be facing forward. Mother foal bonding prepares horses for consensual and selfless riding. Step 10. Always have your inside hand on the horse. Maintain your riding body position. When you get to the saddle zone, when you're moving back, touching, and body mapping, when you get to the saddle zone, drape a loop of your rope on the other side of the horse's flank. This is a pre-ride checkout. The question is the horse comfortable having you in that space? And this loop that you have made with your rope on their flank simulates one of your legs. Step 11. If one loop is okay for the horse, you can make a second loop. You have now simulated body, legs, and one rein. Your body in the position of the saddle, your legs draped over their side, and that one rein in the side that you have come from represents, in this case, the outside rein. If the horse wants to walk away from you at any time during the body mapping, let them. And you return to step 2, meaning a straight line departure. And you patiently then repeat the entire mother foal bonding process. Step 12. If you got this far and the horse is relaxed, patiently allowing you to map each body zone and letting you in there, you can step carefully into the blind spot. This is time for butt rubs. This is a very sensitive place for a horse because you are standing right where they can't see you. And this is the major check of the trust because you are leaving the outside where you represent a wall between them and the outside world. You are leaving that caring position, the wall protecting them on the outside. You're stepping into the blind spot. You and the horse are now equal. They have to care enough about you not to defend themselves when you're standing in that blind spot. They have to trust you enough, and you have to trust them enough. So only do this if you feel absolutely confident that the horse feels confident having you there. Step 13. If the horse is still with you and consensually holding space for you as you ask permission from each body zone, you can carefully step to the inside of your herd of 2. The horse is now outside and close. They are between you and the external threats now. Step 14. Walking forwards with a hand on them, the horse, touch mapping at all times, maintaining your riding body position. You will complete the body scan by closing the loop and making a loose second rein. Step 15. You have now closed the loop. Fully consensual body and touch mapping is complete. The horse has expressed their comfort at letting you access all areas of their body. Training can now begin as the horse has shown a baseline of trust, of care. Step 16. Crouching down. If your body and health allows it, bend or crouch down. Why? No dominating human would dare put themselves into this vulnerable position, and that can be transformative if you are rehabilitating a horse who has been dominated by people in the past. They can look at you with new eyes because you now look different to every other human they have ever been trained by. You demonstrate your humility towards the horse and give them a memory, a body memory for working long and low in a state of care, which you're going to need later when we get to riding. So, that is the whole choreography explained step by step. And as you have noticed, there are multiple points where the horse is given a choice and the horse is allowed to express various behaviors. But there is generally a limit to how many behaviors they will express at each one of those points. Based upon what the horse expresses at that time will depend upon what response you will have in response to them. It's like a true communication. You ask a question, they give their answer, not a practiced or rehearsed answer. They give their answer. Based upon their answer, you reply back with something else. It's important with mother-foal bonding to not expect instant results. This is a horsemanship tool that will permeate all of your training to be used for a specific purpose, creating and reinforcing the bond between you and the horse. Mother-foal bonding is most effective with 10-minute sessions, 2 to 4 days a week until the whole process is well established. Then only use it when it is needed. This is not a behaviorism exercise. It is an emotional bonding protocol. We do not want it to become a trick. Try it, film yourself, then watch the tutorials again. Because if this is feeling all too abstract for you, then you need to go out there and actually try it with your current level of understanding, film yourself, and then come back and watch the tutorials again, and you will be increased in your knowledge. Let's chat about private lessons and coaching if you do get stuck. Mother-foal bonding is the foundation technique of emotional horsemanship and totally unique to this horse training method. This becomes a tool to back a horse, to start them under saddle, and even finish them as a riding horse. This is what I use to actually introduce the first saddle and the first rider to a horse. This can be done at liberty, without all of these tools, without ropes, without halters, if you want. And I always recommend that you return to it after a major change in a horse's life. For example, change of home, a stressful trauma, disease, or a loss of a friend, or coming back after a period of convalescence or even a holiday. Once mother-foal bonding is established, it makes training behavioral skills to your horse so much easier because the horse cares about you and what you offer to them. Mother-foal bonding will trickle down into everything you do. You become always aware of the power of the curve and the herd center.